We should go live.
Welcome to ensuring safe and secure elections during COVID-19. This is the final webinar in the Naperville League of Women Voters Summer Election Series. For this evening's webinar, all the attendees, other than the panelists, have their video turned off and audio muted. The webinar is also being recorded. I am Debbie Wiedinghoff, the president of the National Council of Jewish Women, Chicago North Shore. We are honored to partner with the DuPage County NAACP and the Naperville League of Women Voters to bring you this important and informative series as we near the November election. For more than 125 years, the National Council of Jewish Women has advanced social change through advocacy and community service. We are a national grassroots organization with more than 90,000 advocates and volunteers. NCJW's mission is to improve the lives of women, children, and families by advocating for social change, social justice, and safeguarding individual rights and freedoms. On July 1st, we installed our 2020-21 Board of Directors, who look forward to offering virtual opportunities to our members and the greater community to examine the critical issues facing Americans today, including racial justice, healthcare, immigration, and gun violence prevention. However, the importance of our national campaign to promote the vote, protect the vote, has never been more evident. Locally, we are working to ensure that every eligible voter in Illinois is able to register to vote, cast a ballot, and do so safely and securely. With this goal in mind, we join the Naperville League of Women Voters and the DuPage County NAACP to bring you this evening's webinar. Now I'm pleased to introduce Jeff Knezovich, Treasurer of the Naperville League of Women Voters. And I apologize, Jeff, but I didn't have it. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for the comments. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Naperville, welcome to this third webinar of our summer election series. Again, our partners in tonight's programming are the National Council of Jewish Women and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, DuPage County Branch. In our first webinar, we heard from the Public Information Officer of the State of Illinois elections on what will be different about the fall 2020 election process, specifically voting by mail. The second program featured elected officials who assured us that fair and safe elections will take place this November. Tonight's program focuses on county clerks who must ensure the voters' experience is flawless, safe, and conducted with utmost integrity. Our three organizations have always promoted the idea of open and free elections as a big part of democracy. Because of the current pandemic, plans need to be made to modify the traditional voting process. This means everyone needs to be aware of those changes so their vote can be counted this fall. Tonight's webinar entitled, What Will Our November 2020 Elections Look Like? I am Jeff Knezovich, Treasurer of the League of Women Voters of Naperville. The League of Women Voters encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government and works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Any citizen, 16 years of age or older, male or female, may join. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan and neither supports nor opposes candidates for elected office. but does act on issues after members study and have a consensus. The League of Women Voters has a long standing of advocating for open elections and the abolishment of any restrictions that may restrain any registered voter from proper access to the election process or to a polling place. This has been the mainstay of the League since the suffrage movement, and the right for women to vote was granted August 18th, 1920, 100 years ago next month. Tonight's format will include question and answer session focused on the county election processes in Will and DuPage counties. Mike and I will serve as the questioners. As previously mentioned, the clerks from both counties will be responding to our questions. The questions were solicited from the leadership of all three sponsoring organizations. Let me introduce the two clerks. First, from DuPage County, we're pleased to have with us Jean Kaczmarek, who was elected to her post for the first time in 2018. However, for many years prior to becoming an elected official, Jean was known for her keen ability to root out the bad in county government. Some people say she knew more about county government than the elected officials that ran the system. Besides overseeing the election process, her office is responsible for much of the licensing and record keeping for the county. From Will County, we have joining us Lauren Ferry. While serving on the county board, Lauren decided to run for the county clerk position in 2018. Hers is a youthful face with positive energy that is driving change in the clerk's office. Like her DuPage colleague, she is overseeing the changes coming this fall for this fall's general elections. With these brief introductions, let's start the questioning and brief comments from Michael. Michael? Did Michael? There we are.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Michael Childress, and I have the pleasure and the awesome responsibility of serving as president of DuPage County NAACP. Our association is the largest and oldest civil rights organization in the world. The NAACP has more than 2,200 branches and over 500,000 members. The association is recognized as a non-governmental organization by the United Nations. The NAACP's historical records has been housed at the Library of Congress, which has served as the organization's official repository since 1964. The NAACP has and will continue to fiercely demand equal access to the ballot box in every community, in every state, and will always fight for civil rights and social justice. It is our hope tonight that we get all of your questions answered because we need to vote this fall like our lives depend on it. The struggle continues. Now let's get into the questions.
Go ahead, Michael. Start with the first question.
Okay, the first question is, how many voters have been purged from the voting rolls in each county? Why have they been purged? What's the racial breakdown of these purged voters? And how can they reinstate their voting rights?
Jean, why don't we start with you?
Hello. Well, last year, 2019, in DuPage County, over 46,000 voters were removed from the active voter list. And the reason that number may seem high is that no complete voter verification had been done in DuPage County for nearly a decade. The NVRA, National Voting Rights Act, and the Illinois Election Code require that we keep our voter registration database up to date. And by law, we must conduct a complete voter verification every 2 years. If we never remove people who had passed away or moved, at some point, the number of registered voters would surpass the population. We never track race in the voter registration database. And the names and voter registration numbers of everyone who had been removed from active status can be FOIA'd. However, it should be noted that when the voter verification postcard is returned, a second notification is sent out to those voters, and the post office is directed to forward it to their address. Voters are never canceled unless they tell our office to do so, or they remain inactive for 8 years. The notification informs them that they have appeared to have moved and that they need to update their registration. And then the re-registration requires an ID and can be done at the election division, online, or at a polling place. And keep in mind that Illinois has same-day voter registration.
Lauren?
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so it is, it's much of the same as what Jean said. You know, purged, we don't really like to use that term. They remain on our rolls, but we change their status, is what happens. So if we send out the voter verification card, the voter registration card, and it's returned to the clerk's office as undeliverable, we send the voter an address confirmation card. If the card comes back and there is no response, we change the voter status to inactive. So a re-registration is eventually required. And the voter can simply contact the office, update their information, and then we'll go ahead and change their status back to active. And if an inactive voter, this is like Jean said as well, doesn't vote in the 2 consecutive general elections, then the voter must actually re-register or, you know, register again to vote. And then, you know, like Jean said, we do have same-day registration now at our early voting sites. In person with a registrar, you know, they can print and mail the application. It's available online. There are many ways to go ahead and do that. So it's, you know, we don't use the term purge really in our office. We just go ahead and change the status.
What ID would they need to, when they do same-day voter registration?
They need the 2 forms of identification.
And that can be a driver's license, a utility bill, not their social security card?
Right. One of the IDs has to have their current address on it.
Correct.
All right. Since we started talking about early voting and the polls, et cetera, let's get into some specific in each of the counties. Lauren, how many early voting places will be available for the electorate in your county? And do you feel this is adequate?
Yes, so we actually were able to expand our early voting locations in the primary election. That was one of the things that I felt was important to the county. There were some underserved areas in Will County. So we actually added some early voting locations in the primary election, the Spanish Community Center in Joliet, and then out east in eastern Will County, we were able to find a site in Stager. So we do have 25 early voting locations spread across the county. We're planning for the same number in the general, and with the expanded, you know, with the extra voting locations, we feel that that is going to be sufficient. We believe that they're, you know, strategically located. They will be open the hours that they need to be. We expanded some of the hours in the primary, and we have confirmed with most of our voting locations. We're working on, you know, some protocols, and we're working with some of our early voting locations right now to make sure that, you know, they feel comfortable. But we are comfortable with saying that we will have all of our early locations.
Are your locations considered easy access for those people using public transportation?
Yes, our early voting locations are, we have libraries. We have 2 libraries, to athletic facilities. They are in very, very easily accessible locations.
Okay, Jean, how about what's happening in DuPage County?
Well, in the recent past, DuPage County has had 12 early voting sites, and we too are actively looking to increase that number for November, and we're starting with the underserved areas as well.
And what are the dates for early voting in DuPage County?
The dates are October 19th through November 2nd.
Okay, and in Will County, are they the same?
They are the same.
All right, good. So everybody can get out late October or early October, and they have about 40 days of voting, it looks like. Okay,
Yep.
great. Mike?
Okay. Gene, in the past, we've seen the elimination of many same-day voting polling places. And that has caused a lot of long lines in certain neighborhoods, especially in neighborhoods with people of color. What is the exact number of the same-day polling locations going to be in DuPage County? And is that adequate? Do you feel that's adequate? And then also, can you give us an update on what is the condition of our same-day voting machines?
We have 268 polling sites. I believe that with our expanded vote by mail program and with the early voting sites that we're going to have going, I am thinking that we'll be covered well. Our machines are old, but they're going to get the job done. They're reaching an end of life, and we've been looking at new voting systems over the past 3-4 months now.
Okay, and what's the status on that? And is it any updates, or there's just status out there in limbo? We won't have them before the election?
No, that's a really long process. It takes a long time to scrutinize the different systems, go through the procurement process, get the approval for payment, and then to implement them, get all the election judges trained. It's a pretty long project, and I wouldn't want to go through what Georgia went through with their no new voting machines in a few months ago.
Okay. I'm going to ask the same question, Lauren. How many same-day polling sites do you have in your county? And again, is that going to be adequate? And what's the condition of your voting machines?
So we have 249 election day polling places. We do believe that that is an adequate number to serve all the voters in Will County. We have N100 tabulators that are serviced before every election. We do testing on them. They're reliable. They're like the old, like workhorse machines, but we are kind of in the same boat as Jean. In DuPage County, we do have a very antiquated system, but it is tried and true. It has worked. However, we have been speaking with our current vendor as well, and talking to some others about the possibility of upgrading some things just because of, vulnerabilities and just evolving, technology changes that we feel are needed. But they're going to work just fine for this election as they have in the past. We have every confidence in that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up question to that for both of you. During a typical election, or let's use a general election in the fall, what is the percentage of machines that go down?
Very few for Will County. I think.
Because we know that was, and again, new machines in Georgia, that was a big problem. They were operating with one machine in each precinct or each polling place.
Yeah, we haven't seen that. Like I said,
You're not experiencing problems typically during the election day.
It's
Good.
really not. That's what, we do all of that testing beforehand to make sure, we do the logic and accuracy testing, and then they are locked down until election day. They open up on election day, and things run very smooth.
Okay. Let's move to the new, probably, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, we're assuming mail-in ballots will be cast at a higher volume than anything else this year. Let's talk about that process. First of all, each county, I'm assuming the individual voter has to submit an application to receive a ballot. Is that true? Each county?
Correct?
Right.
And those applications will be sent automatically to each registered voter?
So in Will County, we've already done our mailing. We are required to do a mass mailing every 2 years. So with the new mandate, with the new legislation that was put in place, we decided to go ahead and consolidate our mailing to every registered voter, which includes their voter registration cards in Will County. We decided to include the vote by mail application in that mailing, so to consolidate the cost.
Good.
And just send everything out in one mailing. So our mailing went out on July 8th.
So
we are
everybody in
already,
Will County should have their application in hand.
They do. They
Are
have
any coming back
we're
yet?
getting them back.
Are any coming back yet?
We've already received roughly 20,000 back.
Excellent, excellent. Jean?
Well, our office will be mailing out a vote by mail application to every registered voter soon. And we too are going to be using it as voter verification. And the applications are being printed as I speak. Voters can fill out the application and then drop it in the mail without a stamp. But I do want to emphasize that voters can go and register right now online. We launched our online application on the same day that Governor Pritzker signed SB 1863. And so far we have had over 16,000 applications for vote by mail ballots. And we've already surpassed the number of applications in the 2020 primary, and it's only July, and we're at 30% of the 2018 general.
A question about that mail-in ballot. If you receive it spoiled or without signature or a required something, will you be notifying each voter who has that situation that they need to cast their vote again, or they can correct it? Jean first.
Yes, we require that the envelope be sealed and that it be signed, and that the signature will be compared with their voter registration signature by bipartisan teams of election judges. And if the envelope is rejected, then that voter will be notified.
How about in Will County?
The same process, same exact process.
Okay. And mail-in ballots are going to be accepted with a postmark of the election for how many days? Or I guess what I'm getting to, when will we know the outcome of the election?
Well, for tight races, we won't know the outcome until 2 weeks after the election, and that's when the last ballots are counted and the certification takes place.
Lauren?
Yep, that's the same thing. Yep, provisional count happens 2 weeks after the election.
So what are your offices doing in a campaign to get people to respond in an efficient manner? Lauren?
As far as returning back,
Advertising, are there notices in the newspaper? Get your ballots back. How are you communicating? Don't sit on them, but get them out.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing all kinds of social media interaction. We'll be doing PSAs on the radio, just a lot of outreach any way we can. There's been some press, some articles, and in the press in Will County. I'm just reminding people that they do have the option to vote by mail. They should have it in their hand if that's the way that they would like to vote.
Okay. Jean, any comment?
Right. The voter application that's going to be going out soon is going to very strongly give the message that people need to get in their application soon, and also that ballots will not be sent out any sooner than September 24th, and that it will take an additional 4 to 5 days for those ballots to arrive in mailboxes. And then we're asking people to please fill out the ballot as soon as possible and to get it back in the mail.
Perfect. Michael?
Just one quick follow-up. What's the postmark? What's the deadline to have a postmark on the ballot when you mail it in?
Election day,
Election day.
November 3rd.
Okay. And can it be dropped off by in person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's change a little bit. With the election coming up, there's always shenanigans and games being played. So the question is, how are voting irregularities going to be handled? How are they going to be reported? Who's going to address them? And who do people contact on election day if they feel their franchise has been infringed on?
So in Will County, we depend a lot on our state's attorney's office and our sheriff's departments. On election day when things are happening, we do deploy our state's attorney, our assistant state's attorneys, deploy teams of people out to polling places just to sort of check on things, make sure things are being handled properly. The state's attorney also sets up a hotline that day, an election hotline for people to be able to call. We give out that number on our voter information guide that we send to every household before the election, so everybody has it. We're in constant contact with our election judges and our field techs on election day. We take phone calls all day long, from folks out there that are dealing with equipment issues or voter issues or candidate issues, whatever the case may be. So it's just a constant, constant contact type of thing. But we do have our people set in place to be able to help with those things.
Okay. Jean?
Everything that Lauren just said. And also we will have our call center going starting at 5 a.m. and going until long after the polls are closed to answer questions. And election judges have the phone number of the call center, and depending on the problem, it will be directed to the right person.
So if the general public has a concern, do they call the state's attorney's office or do they try to call your office?
I would say that they should call our office first, and we'll try to get it worked out.
Yeah, most people call directly to the county clerk's office first.
Mm-hmm.
Is that number readily available? Is it posted in the polling locations?
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Any follow-up, Jeff?
I guess the next question would be, because we talked about irregularities, let's go back a little bit about the mail-in ballots. We've read in numerous accounts that there is some concern that casting your vote by mail could be a fraudulent vote, or it increases the percentage of fraud in the election process. Do you have any history or knowledge of that being a fact, that fraud is going to increase because of mail-in ballots? Lauren, you want to make a comment?
I think that what we've seen is that there is a lot of misinformation about vote by mail. It's a convenient way to vote. People are able to do it from their own homes. It is secure. I know Jean spoke earlier about how we actually have to verify the signatures with teams of election judges that are bipartisan. There's a ratio of Democrats and Republicans that look at those signatures when those ballots are going to be processed. So it really is a secure way to vote. We verify the signatures on those envelopes just as we do on election day. So it's really the same process that takes place. So it really is a secure way to vote. I just think there's a lot of misinformation out there. So that's why, I mean, I think Jean would agree, we love doing these types of things so we can try to help clarify the process or any questions that people may have.
Jean, what do you have to add to that?
Well, again, everything that Lauren just said. But we also verify the signatures on the applications as well. And so it's like a two-step process. And then we, again, look at the signatures on the ballots. I agree that there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Can a voter actually track their ballot going through the process, and how do they do that? Jean, you want to go first?
Well, for the 2020 election, we're pleased to be implementing ballot tracks. And so the voter will be able to follow the path of their ballot after it gets into the mail. And then, of course, if they go online, they will receive a notification instantly that their application was accepted.
Okay. Anything different in Will County?
Yep, so our residents can go onto our website and they're able to track their application as well as their ballots online as well. So they'll get a notification, they'll know that it was received, when their ballot was sent out, and when it was received back as well.
Okay. We talked about the postmark. We talked about the turnaround time for the ballot. Do we know in Will County, is postage going to be required on those ballots, or are you paying for the postage of the ballot?
Postage is paid for both ways.
It's the same in DuPage County, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What happens if you deem the ballot as spoiled? Or, and here's the other thing it sounded like, it's going to be extremely critical that each and every person sign their ballot, correct?
Right.
And what happens if they forget to sign the ballot? Is it just considered spoiled, or how does that work?
Well, actually, they don't sign the ballot, they sign the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's critical that they signed the envelope, and that signature closely resemble the signature on their voter registration.
Well, I think some people may be concerned about having their signature sitting on top of a ballot, on top of an envelope.
I don't know what to say. It's just the way vote by mail
Works.
is set up.
Lauren, did you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the concern part. What was the concern?
Michael, you want to address that again?
It seems, and I'll say I know some people that are really concerned about having their signature sitting on an envelope that is going through the mail. Some people are very, very protective of their signature. What if they determine that they don't want to sign an envelope in which is going to be touched by I don't know how many people and going to be exposed to how many people? Your signature is almost like your fingerprint. So is that of concern, or do you think it may deter people from voting by mail?
I actually haven't heard that a ton, actually, about the signatures. I think I mean, I definitely could see the, the concern for that. It is how vote by mail works. Illinois is a signature verification state. And so that's how we verify everything. So I guess I would tend to say at this point, like with the volume of applications that we're seeing come back, maybe that won't be as big of a concern as we think. But like Jean said, that is the way vote by mail does work. Illinois is a signature verification state.
And also, we will have drop-off boxes, one in our parking lot at the county campus, as well as one inside the front door of the 421 building. And so if anyone is uncomfortable having their ballot go through the mail, they can drop it off. And of course, you can also drop off the ballot at any polling place as well.
How do you, let's talk about some of the numbers again. Jean, what do you think the percentage of vote by mail is going to be this year compared to the regular walk-in? It's a best guess, I know.
Well, we will be prepared for every single person if they want to vote by mail to do so. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on the way the pandemic is going. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe close to half of
50%, that'd be terrific, yeah.
Yeah.
Lauren, you think you'll see the same in Will County?
I think we do. I think we're preparing for, maybe a little less than half. But I like just from the initial, we just sent the mailing out on the 8th, and the volume that we're seeing now is really showing that. I think Jean's estimation is probably correct. I mean, I think we're going to see a really high volume.
Let's give a perspective to it. How many people request vote by mail in the 2016 election? Do you know, Jean?
Yeah, I don't know that number. Vote by mail, no excuse. Vote by mail was just launching at that time. The number was pretty low.
Okay.
Ours was actually really, really high in that election. We actually had a high number. Well, actually, it was our highest, and maybe it was because it was new and people.
Yeah, new. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but that was 30,000. 30,000 is our highest number that we've done ever in the clerk's office for vote by mail, and we're already at 20,000, over 20,000.
Excellent. Good.
And it's not even, it's July. So I certainly think we're gonna see a ton of vote by mail.
And Jean, back one question. Vote by mail, there was some cost involved in equipment, VBM equipment that had to be approved. Was that approved by the county yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, good. All right, excellent. So we know we have the necessary equipment to count the ballots?
Yes.
Good. I know that was a concern early. Mike, why don't you go to your questions?
Well, I got another question. I want to turn to process. There is a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, so can you talk to me about the process, or talk to the audience about the process of a provisional ballot? Is it really counted? We've heard so many rumors that where they don't count provisional ballots, and if they do count them, it has to be, they count them much later. What is the process when a person is given a provisional ballot? How does that work, counted, tracked, that whole situation in each county? We can start with Jean.
Well, provisional ballots are issued on election day.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully with our new poll pads, that will minimize the number of provisional ballots considerably. But there will be some, and they are looked at by teams of bipartisan judges after the election day, and first of all, the staff determines whether or not they're in the system, and often they are. And then those are, go through the process of being counted. And then if they're not in the system, then voters have a certain amount of time, they have to get there within the 2-week period to have their registration checked and to see if in fact they were a registered voter.
Okay. Laura, is that the same process in Will County?
Yeah, it really is. It's the same process. The provisional ballots are handed, if somebody needs one, it happens on election day. We do our provisional count the 2 weeks after. So in that time, they go through, they sort them and do everything they need to do with them. And then in the 2 weeks, we have the provisional count. So they are absolutely counted. Every vote is counted. Our offices are mandated 9% by statute. We really have, we don't have a lot of options but to follow the law. So
okay. All right, so now I want to turn to safety. With COVID-19, what safety measures are we taking when a voter enters the polling place? Are we going to have masks? Is it going to be required? Can you talk a little bit about the process of keeping the public safe during the same-day voting and even early voting?
Well, we are ordering a mountain of PPE. We have masks on order and gloves. Hand sanitizer has already been taken care of. All of that. And then we'll see what the Illinois Department of Health and Governor Pritzker have to say closer to the election, and we'll follow their lead on that.
It'll be the same thing in Will County. So we are sending our election judges and their, with their supplies, they will have protective nose and mouth coverings, so masks. They'll have gloves. They're going to have the protective face shield as an option as well. We're sending disinfectant wipes, personal hand sanitizers for their stations. We've contracted with a company to provide the large hand sanitizing stations that will be at all of the early voting locations and all of the polling places on election day for the public, when they walk in, when they walk out. We're still finalizing the actual protocol that we'll give to election judges to follow, but we will be obviously instructing them to wipe down all the surfaces frequently, follow the CDC guidelines. As far as mandatory, masks, we will be, watching, the governor to see if he, mandates anything or what recommendations come down. We have been talking with our state's attorney's office as well as the State Board of Elections on guidance on whether we can require the public to wear masks, but there isn't any clear guidance on that yet. So we're still we're still planning.
Okay, because that's going to be important. You don't want your election judges trying to be police, I would think.
Correct.
How many voters are going to be allowed in the polling place at a time? Do we have numbers on that yet? You can take that, Laura.
So we're still, we're developing protocol. Like I said, we just met with one of our early voting locations today. That's, it's a athletic facility. They have requirements now, capacity requirements now, that they can only have, a certain amount of people in the building. So, depending on where we are in October, when early voting starts, we'll have to see how we work that out. Social distancing we will be doing, but I think it's going to be, we're going to do our best to make sure that everybody's, social distancing, and we're following those capacity requirements that some of these locations have.
Mm-hmm.
Jean?
Again, what Lauren said, we will be following whatever the Illinois Department of Health and Governor Pritzker tell us as election day nears, and We will also be having social distancing, and we will be following whatever recommendations there are for the number of people in a room, all of it.
And I guess my question, kind of the fly in the ointment, what happens if it rains that day and there's lines outside? Do we have provisions to handle that? And I don't know what that would be. Umbrellas, maybe have people come inside. What's the mechanism if it becomes a god awful day to vote and we have lines outside?
Anybody got a comment?
Michael, it's not going to rain.
It may snow.
Well, if you think about it, it did snow Halloween last year. It snowed
right.
Halloween.
Yeah,
Well, we do have vote by mail.
That's right. You have to
That's
vote
right.
by mail. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that's I'll move over to Jeff if you have any follow-up questions.
We had I had a text from someone asking how many voters actually cast votes in 2016 in DuPage County, and then I'll go to Will County. What's the percentage of votes cast?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I just don't have that number at the top of my head.
Because we surely want to beat it this coming year.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
I don't have that exact number either.
Well, how many voters do you expect to go to the polls in 2020? Are you estimating your turnout yet?
All I keep hearing is that it's going to be historically high.
Yeah.
And
So
hopefully they'll vote by mail.
Yeah. It's really so hard to gauge with vote by mail, and we don't know how that's going to impact the in-person voting. So, but I agree with Jean. We that's all I keep hearing too, that people are still going to come out and vote.
With these safety issues, are you having trouble in either of the counties securing enough election judges?
well, we have a good supply of election judges right now, but we're always recruiting. So if anyone's interested, come to our website and apply or call our office.
And how many election judges do you need for an election day?
I think that well, the thing is you want to have a lot in reserve.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going to happen on election day, but we have over 3,000 right now.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
How about Will County?
Yep. So we send out, like for a typical general election, we send out about a little over 1,500. I think the number is like 1,535. We're shooting to have 1,700 sent out this time. And we are obviously always recruiting too. We have some in reserve, but we are constantly recruiting. We're actually going to start a social media program just for recruitment of election judges and field techs. We have a student ambassador program that we're trying to rely on as well to get some younger people involved. So we are always recruiting for election judges. We can never have enough.
So one of the issues during, if I recall, it was Georgia, the judges didn't show up and delayed the opening. When do you find out an election judge isn't going to be available? That morning or several days in advance? Lauren first?
It can be both. I mean, we have people call and cancel in advance, which we appreciate, obviously. But that morning, I mean, some people don't wake up. Some people, they in this past election, they decided that morning that they were just, too freaked out. They didn't want to do it. And so we have amazing staff that really takes care of, moving people around. If there's somebody that's got 7 election judges, we know we can take them and move them to the place where somebody canceled. There's a ton of, switching and moving things around on election morning. I think that, all of our polling places are open. Like we make sure that they're open right at time it's open, but then there's a lot of moving people around that probably doesn't get like finalized and done until around like 10 o'clock, like 10, 11 o'clock, where everybody's okay, where they should be after all the, switching and finding people that we need to find to send out.
Jean, how does it work in DuPage County?
Well, the same way. And
Unfortunately.
I believe in the primary that we lost 60% of our original election judges,
Wow.
and many of them in the days just before election day. And we lost people that day as well. But somehow, some way, we were able to get election day up and running. We too were moving people around, but still the polls were open, and everyone
Are
was
you
able to vote.
hearing concerns from your election judges that are senior citizens that they may not be able to participate this year?
Well, there's been some of that, but with SB 1863, we're able to recruit much younger election judges. We can have 16-year-olds, and we have a number of younger people signing up. And so it's perfectly understandable why some people would not want to be an election judge during a pandemic.
Yeah.
I fully understand that.
Lauren, any additional comments?
Jean's exactly right. We've had a lot of conversations. We're so lucky to have really good conversations with our regular election judges that want to do it every year, and they have voiced concerns over, doing it. They love doing it, so it's almost like heartbreaking for them to say
Sure.
they don't want to, because they're worried. But we are recruiting, like I said, people, our student ambassadors to come out and, have them tell their friends and just recruit some younger folks for this time around. But we tell them, we know you'll be back the next time. So.
And addressing our senior citizens, how are we going to handle the vote in the senior facilities across the counties? Will we actually be going in, or are we going to encourage a ballot? How is that going to take place first in DuPage County?
We will not be having any polling sites at any of our retirement/nursing facilities. We just feel that during this time, it's just not a good idea. And we are encouraging vote by mail for people who are residents.
Are they getting special posters or mailings to let them know that there won't be a polling place?
Well, they'll all receive an application
Okay,
pretty
good.
soon. And yes, there's special outreach to these facilities and to the activity coordinators at these facilities to make sure that everyone can cast a vote.
Great, great. Lauren, down in Will County.
It's the same thing. We'll be talking to the administrators at the facilities and making sure that they received everything that they need to, so that they're able to cast their vote.
Okay, great, great. In a different direction, as taxpayers, we're always worried if we have enough money to pay for these new processes. Do you see the cost going through the roof, or will vote by mail actually be a savings to each of your counties? Any opinions on that? Lauren?
No.
Oh, all right. Jean, if you want to go first.
Well, unless Lauren wants to go first. It's just too soon to tell. We have not been able to look at anything like that. Right now, it feels like we're spending an awful lot of money. This is, by the way, the most expensive way to go, to be running a full vote by mail campaign side by side with a conventional election. Right now we're spending money.
Well, as a county clerk, would you ever recommend to the state that we go completely mailed, vote by mail ballots?
The jury's still out on that one.
All right. I'll ask Lauren the same thing.
I completely agree with Jean.
So no cost savings that we're aware of. And are you getting the funding you need from the federal government in order to do this properly? Lauren?
Yeah, we have received funding from the CARES Act, which has been a huge help. I mean, without that, we'd really be in a situation. So, you know, glad to have the CARES funding. We are using it, you know, to fund a lot of this part-time staff because of the volume of vote by mail. Just it's been helpful, and we have received it. So,
Jean?
Right, we've received close to $3.5 million for this election.
And there'll be,
In additional funds because of COVID.
okay.
I'm pretty sure you could have used twice as much though.
yeah.
I just have one other question when it comes back to recruiting. And this is more of a suggestion than a question. Would we not want to partner with every high school civics teacher and maybe have them offer the students in those civics classes, I don't know, some extra credit to be election judges to get them acclimated to the process?
So in Will County, that's what the Student Ambassador Program is really. We've reached out to every school district in the county. If we don't hear back from the administrators, we reach out to the principals, the deans, the teachers, whoever we can actually reach. So we're trying to recruit heavily in those areas, and it's going well. You know, I think we've had several meetings recently with a lot of the teachers in the district. I think with everything being virtual, you know, it's still, you know, we're trying to navigate that, but we are heavily recruiting in that way with the Student Ambassador Program.
Good. Jean?
And what really helps right now is that SB 1863 has a school holiday for Election Day. And so the students that would be working in the elections would not be missing school.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And
Good.
so that's
Because my concern is we spend so much time focused on recruiting senior citizens because they've retired or whatever, when the new day and the new technologies lend themselves to Generation Z, Generation X, millennials, and that tends to seem the way the technology is going. We should follow that trend as far as recruiting our judges.
Okay, we are coming down to the wire, so we have a last question we want to ask both of our clerks who are here. What do you foresee as the most important or possibly the most difficult issue you will have to overcome before the November election? And once again, restate the process for vote by mail in each of your counties. We'll start with Jean.
just the volume of vote by mail. We've never done anything like this before. And so I think that that's the big unknown. There's several big unknowns with this election. We don't know what the turnout's going to be. We don't know where the pandemic's going to be. We're thinking worst case scenario in that area. And we don't know what the volume is going to be.
Okay. And your process, once again, for vote by mail, what does an individual have to do in order to secure a ballot?
Well, right now, they can go on our website and apply for an application.
Okay, perfect. Lauren, your comments.
I agree with Jean. We're already seeing such a huge volume in vote by mail that we're just not, we try to prepare for, but we will have to, we don't have the staff and we're not going to have the automation for it yet. So I think that's going to be a challenge. I think so many things, like Jean said, present unique challenges with this election. We're planning on, everything that we can, we're ready to rise to the challenge when it's presented. So it's, who would have thought we'd be preparing for a general election under these circumstances? So, but, we are going to do everything in our power to make certain that every voter has a chance to cast their ballot. with every option, vote by mail, if they want to go early vote, if they want to go on election day, Will County will be ready. And then, like I said, for the process for vote by mail, we have already sent out the mass mailing. So every registered voter should have that application in their hands. If they wish to use it, it's just an option. But they can also go online to our website is thewillcountyclerk.com, and they can apply right online. That's the easiest way to do it. The form, pre-populates, and you just click the button, and it's a very simple way to do it. But they can always call our office. They can email, vote by mail. So whatever way they can just go ahead and request it.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I want to thank all our presenters tonight, both Jean and Lauren, for their insight and good discussion. The League of Women Voters at Naperville, in conjunction with the National Council of Jewish Women and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, thank you, the viewer, for your involvement in this exercise of democracy. This concludes our 2020 summer series. If the public has suggestions for additional programming, please contact the League of Women Voters. If your questions were not answered this evening, I know our presenters would be pleased to hear from you. In fact, we encourage you to contact your individual clerk with any concerns. Visit their websites for contact information. Finally, we would like you as a member of our organizations. If you'd like information about membership and applications, please visit our individual websites. Again, thanks to everyone for your participation in democracy, and have a great evening.